Hi, I'm Tina Paniqui, and welcome to Doorways, conversations with special people that open something within inside you. And today I've got the beautiful Ashley Thornton-Higgs with me, and we're going to be talking plant medicines. So I think it's fair to say, well, certainly since I've noticed, I mean, I'm quite of an age, but in the last couple of years, there's been a real shift in people's, A, talking about plant medicines, and B, actually, experimenting with them and using them. So I really want to understand how they've changed your life and how you've got to where you've got, Ash, in fairness. So let's start with, what came to you first?
What came to me first?
Yeah.
Mushrooms came first.
Oh, did they?
The mushrooms came before.
Right, okay. So I think before we dive into mushrooms then, because that's a whole new story of things, let's start with perhaps cacao.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's how you and I met, wasn't it?
Yes.
So yet again, Facebook saved me. It brought you into my life. I have no idea why, but it did bring you into my life. And, we had our one-to-one journey with cacao. But for people who don't know about cacao, or indeed I know a few people who are quite scared of it, can you just explain to everybody what cacao is?
Yeah, so cacao it's a beautiful plant medicine. It's really focuses on our heart chakras, so really focuses around there. Scientifically, so it's full of vitamins, antioxidants. It's got something called theobromine in, which is, I always say it's a little bit like caffeine, but instead with that slump that we get with caffeine, it just heightens our vibration. So it gives you the feeling like you've just left the gym, or like the feeling that
you're... I'm not one that likes going to the gym.
Or it gives you the feeling like you're falling in love. It also really works with our dopamine receptors as well, and produces dopamine and serotonin. So it's like just a really good
feel-good factor.
It's a real good feel factor, yeah.
So why do you think why do you feel that it's suddenly become so talked about? Because, I didn't know about it for, how long have I known you now? A couple of years?
Yeah, a few years.
Yeah, it's like before that, I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's had such a prominence? Why do you hear about it all the time now?
Yeah, so it's always been there. I think when it was put on Dragon's Den, that became so it's become kind of faddy now.
Yeah.
Which is even more, I feel, more reason to talk about it, because there's so many things that are saying that they're cacao out there when actually they're not ceremonial grade cacao. Ceremonial grade cacao is where the magic happens. That's the full cacao bean to the cup, really. So there's been no processes in between that.
So I feel it'd be really good to explain what ceremonial cacao is, because I don't think that people, obviously there's lots of, spiritual people who fully understand what the terminology means, but there are people who are sort of circling around the edge, if you like, that don't understand what that truly means and what benefits it can bring to them.
Okay.
So, and also want to explore, just while we're talking about it, that I can't think of a better way of describing this really, but it feels like sometimes like people are just chucking cacao into different ceremonies without the true essence of what that cacao is about. So let's start with, what does ceremonial cacao mean, and how does somebody experience that?
Okay, so ceremonial grade cacao, basically what it means is there's been no big process. It's not been in manufacturer. It's literally the bean. The bean is then fermented for around 2 weeks under banana leaves, and then it's crushed under a big stone, and that's what creates, it's called cacao liqueur. Because it's done in such an old and ancestral way, it really contains the spirit of cacao. It's also grown with all the other plants in the jungle, so it's in a permaculture kind of environment.
Yeah.
So it's not just cacao on its own in a plantation. So all of the other plants, really, they're grown in people's back gardens, and that's what creates the permaculture. So not just cacao, but aloe vera, all the other medicinal plants that they use, and also the food that they eat, but that all feeds into the cacao beans, which gives it this real earth and
It's very feminine as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah, cacao's a feminine energy. So within ceremonies, we work with Mama Cacao, which is a feminine energy. I want to say it's a bit like Pachamama, Mother Earth. It's that kind of wholesome hug feeling.
I do think about you actually, because I was watching Race Around the World, and they had it on there.
Yeah.
So did you see it? They were in Mexico, and these celebrities, they were sitting with Cacao, and you could see physically the huge shift that's in there. So let's assume that everybody knows, and I know you represent, say the word, because I always get the name. That's it, that one. So I know you're a brand ambassador for that, and I have to say it's one of the nicest tasting ones, because we haven't mentioned this, have we? But I love your saying that it looks like chocolate, smells like chocolate, tastes a bit like.
It tastes like mud.
I can't say it's the most pleasant taste. However, the one that you do actually is the nicest tasting I've had, and I have had different ones from when I've been in different places, in truth. But what I would like then to explore is how, so we've talked about the grade of it, we've talked about where it comes from, and the difference between the ones that are sort of, mixed up with other stuff that they really shouldn't be. So how then is that used, and how does it open something within us?
So when we drink cacao, it can put us into a dreamlike state when you go into meditation. So you can use cacao in, like you say, to add on to any modality. So you can use cacao and sound, cacao, breath work, for instance. So you can use all of those, and that's fine. It really just helps people, supports people in settling into themselves. The kind of journeys that I do, I allow you to be with yourself and Mama Cacao. There's a lot of silence. But that silence is held. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not.
And there is a big difference for people, because I feel, particularly when I've had ceremonies with you, that the beauty of it is that, which can be a bit scary for people. Some people it can if they don't know. And just for clarity, so there's nothing. There's only joy within cacao. There isn't anything that it's not a drug. It's not anything like that. It's literally a plant drink, in my words, that opens your heart and opens up your energetic systems, isn't it?
So it can help. It can help clear any emotional blockages. So with all plant medicines, there may be a purge, and with cacao, we purge in tears. I'm not going to be sick. I always say we're not tripping balls, because
I think some people are quite frightened of it. He's like, oh, is that what I remember inviting somebody to say, oh, do you want to come to this cacao ceremony? Oh no, I don't think I'm ready for that. It's a bit. I can't remember the word she used, but I was thinking, it's only just chocolate. You really don't have to be worried that it's a drug, so you'll be fine. No. But there is a bit of fear around it.
Yeah, I think there's also, so like in life, we already know the answers within ourselves. I am giving you the room to search within to retrieve those answers. Some people don't want to know those answers, and some people aren't interested in going in. But it's also that I really feel that cacao gives you what you need to know. That can sometimes tough. If self-love's a big one, about honouring yourself and loving yourself. And we can always put that back down, especially if we don't feel worthy, whereas that kind of brings that up to the surface, I feel.
And it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I think you've touched on a really important point there, is there are so many of us who don't know how to sit with ourselves. And I feel that the beauty of the ceremonies that you hold is that you open the space in a very safe way, which is aesthetically, which always brings joy to my heart. It's a beautiful ceremonial altar that is always full of beautiful flowers and love and all these things. So you open the space and you hold that space for people to go on their own self journeys, don't you, using plant medicine. And the beauty of that is that, in my experience, that you take from it whatever you need at that moment. And you're always really, quite open about that, aren't you?
Yeah, so everybody's journey is different. So I always say you could go to sleep for 2 hours in that journey. If that's what your body needs, that's what your body needs. You might hear things, you might see things, you might see colours, you might get direct messages, you might have body convulsions. It literally
just did a bit of a wiggle there.
But it can literally come in any way. And it's to allow yourself to be open and to not, because what I always I was one for it as well. It's like, I'd ask you a certain question and your mind will go, right, I need this, or I want the best of this. Yeah. Like, for instance, like a power animal, or if I ask a question, it's like, allow whatever to arise. Yeah. And it is really surrendering to that. And that's what it's about, really. It's about surrendering to whatever's there.
I personally would really recommend everybody, whatever path on their spiritual journey they're on, or even just self-development, to actually try this in a space that's held without the other noise going on, because it's really transformative if you can sit with it. And I know, like, when I first started doing it with you, and we'll talk about different dosages, in a minute, but I was like, I got hooked into the stories, because just for clarity, when we say see things, we think it's more like a dream, seeing things, rather than you open your eyes and you're seeing. So just so we're clear on that. Yeah. But I used to get so caught up in the story that, like, it was like, I want to talk about it, and then you're like, no, Tina, let's just relax. Let's just go back in there. Let's just soften down and things. So I think I do personally feel that it's a big eye opener for people. And I know we've got one tonight, haven't we? Which I'm super looking forward to, because I just want to go into my own space, and it's a really safe space to be in. So let's talk about dosages, because I think, again, that's really important, that people understand what the differences are.
Yeah, it's really important. So before a daily dose, I would say anything from 10 grams up to 25. In ceremony, so like for this evening, for the 2-hour ceremony that I hold, I serve a 30-gram dose. And I only serve that with water. I only served, if we have ceremony, it's only with water. And that's just because it's a clean, direct source to get to my cacao.
I always sit there when you go to me, you've got water, and I think, it's so much nicer with a bit of oat milk in, but we'll go with it.
Yeah. But it's for ceremony, because of what we're doing, we are opening ourselves up to the spirit of cacao.
Yeah.
It's it's a direct. There's no other chemicals involved in that, really. I do allow a little bit of maple syrup.
That's a godsend for me. I'm not going to lie. It just takes the edge off.
So yeah, I do little, and then from the 30-gram dose up to 42, and the 42 is a shamanic dose of cacao. These can be quite deep. My personal journeys, I do around a 3-hour internal journey, big clear outs,
which is how we first met, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I did the full shamanic, throw me in the deep end.
Yes,
and we didn't know each other, did we?
No, we didn't.
It was, and our friendship's been formed from there, in truth. But it was, you do hold a beautiful space. You open it, you allow space. You're there if needed, but I've always had beautiful experiences when I've done them with you. I absolutely have. So, it's great. But equally, I think it's just on the dosage to finish it. I suspect you wouldn't suggest anybody goes for 42 on their own, unless they're experienced.
No, so. I know some people that haven't been weighing out their cacao like for a daily dose and have been drinking 42 a day.
Really?
Yes. And that, so what it can do if you do start having, because you can still function and have a 42-gram dose, and you could probably go out. So say if I went out raving, I might have a higher dose because it will. It's,
do you go raving?
well, yeah, when I can still be awake. It's usually like day raves these days with the kids.
I don't think I've ever been raving.
Yeah, day raves with the kids these days. Yeah, I can't stay up till about 3 a.m. anymore. But so you can have a bigger dose, but I'd just be really mindful because it can shift a lot of things with us internally, and we're drinking it just kind of carrying on with our normal day, and we might process a lot of things. So it's just to be really aware of what
Be mindful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I know I when I do cacao at home, I do always measure it out.
Yeah.
And I don't. When I first started, I would tend more to the higher dose.
Yeah.
But now I've learnt to be more subtle with it, because actually you want to experience it and not rush it through, because it's very rare that when you're at home, for example, you can sit for 3 hours and just not think about the washing or the ironing or milkman turns up or whatever it is. So then it's like you skip over, which is one of my bad habits in life, skipping over things, whereas I've now learnt to have a lower dose and just sit with it and be content with that and see what unfolds. So, you know,
and a daily dose is a beautiful so I sit with a daily dose in the morning, and I sit and I meditate at my altar, and that just gives me, even if I can get half an hour, if I can get an hour, great, but if I can just get half an hour just to myself, just to kind of go within, then, and it just really supports that. It just really deepens our meditation, and it deepens
connection, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what has cacao done for you? What doorways it opened for you?
Oh, it's opened so many. So before, drinking cacao, I knew that I should be holding space, but I didn't know how to hold space. And then when I was trained in cacao, so I trained shamanically in serving cacao. That opened all those doors, really. So from drinking cacao, I hold space with all different modalities, really, but mainly cacao mushrooms.
We're going to come on to mushrooms in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done about cacao, we've done about ceremony, we've done about the dosage and things, and how it's changed for you.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me a little bit about yourself, Ash. You know, how you came to this world, because I know we all have paths that leads us down a certain route, and you know, what you're happy to share, and how has the experiences we've talked about sort of been woven into your life.
Yeah. So, I wasn't all sunshine and roses for years.
Which you are now.
Yeah. From a young age, alcohol, drugs were a massive thing in my life. And I've been reviewing this actually over the last few weeks, even more so. It's kind of my teenage years because I was quite a confident kid, teenage years, and I had double train tracks and acne, because I had to go to the hospital because I had such bad acne.
What's double train tracks mean?
Double fixed braces. It's cool now. It wasn't cool in the 90s, was it?
Well, it didn't even exist when I was young, so I wouldn't even go down that route.
Yeah, it wasn't cool in the 90s at all. So, I was kind of like, kind of really crawled into myself. But it was also the time of when you wanted to go and kiss boys and get drunk, wasn't it? So, but then, just, I think I hid my anxiety behind alcohol.
Right. Okay.
So I kept kind of feeding it that way, and got out of control quite quickly. So probably from 14 to, I want to say 18, 19, up to, 21. I stopped drinking at 21 because I was in a bad way.
Well, I think that's really brave of you to share that. I mean, I understand alcohol, you know, a lot, because my dad was an alcoholic, and, you know, it did ruin his life and had a ripple effect with us. But, you know, the fact that you got yourself through that is, you know, huge congratulations to you, because you've made the decision to change what it is. I find it really interesting because the person I know, this person even made me get water filter in my house because she was like, Tina, don't have water out of the tap. You need to have filter on it. Do you know what's in that water? And I'm like thinking, oh gosh, so now I have filtered water in my house. And then don't eat that plant milk. That one's there's all these things, and then healthy noughties with your healthy sweets and things. So you have made a radical change, and that takes a lot of bravery and guts to do.
Yeah, I've changed. The thing is, I stopped drinking the first time when I was 21, but then I went back to drinking after 7 years. I'd already still have a drink at Christmas.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how old I am. Must be 9, so I'll be coming up to 9 years. So when I was 31, I decided to stop drinking. When I was 31. I think it was 31, might have been 30.
And what made you make that choice?
Because I'd done it to myself. I'd got myself in the same situation a second time.
Okay.
With alcohol, drugs, everything. It's not good to party for 5 days in a row. So, yeah, it was, I wasn't being a good person, really. So when
which is so foreign to me, because everything that, you know, I know of you and that oozes from you is joy, fun, safety, kindness. You know, you're a really empathetic person. You are, and you seem to have fallen into this role that you do now, you know, in Adala, which is like made for you. You just use presence around it. You absolutely do. So let's go on then to the other type of medicine that we haven't discussed. Mushrooms. Yeah. So I want to understand how mushrooms came into your life, and talk about mushrooms in a sacred way, because there's a real, I feel, misunderstanding in society around things that are abused and things that are then held in a sacred space. And sometimes the edges get a bit blurred, not because of the actual plant medicine itself, but for how people use them. Mm-hmm. So I would like us to talk about, my kids be either really proud of me or not about this. This is from somebody who, I was never in detention at school. I was never in detention, never got into trouble. I was quiet in the corner, and now I'm talking about mushrooms. So it's either going to go one or two ways, if only.
Loved it.
But I do think it's really important that we explore in a considered way what they are about, what they mean, and how they open a doorway to healing, because that is really what we're talking about, isn't it? Yeah. So how did they come into your life, and how did they change your life?
So I'd had a couple of times where I'd had mushrooms, but I wasn't, it was parties.
You could tell how naive I am, because I didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah, so you'd have a party and you'd have a massive pot of tea, so you just drink tea all night. But I wasn't, and then had a prolific mushroom journey, and it was actually at a festival, a small festival, and somebody just kept feeding me mushrooms, and I remember sitting at the fire. There was quite a lot of us, and I really wasn't feeling it. And I went and sat in my friend's tent, because he was in his tent, and I just said, and I kept feeling this garden. There was a big golden frame, and this garden was coming out of the frame and trying to grab me in. And I kept opening my eyes, and I was like, I'm not too sure about that. But I knew I was safe, and I said to him, like, look, I'm going to go in. I'm going to see what's going to happen. Just make sure I'm okay. Okay, no worries. I think I woke up a few hours later, but I just remember being really taken in by this garden.
Did you find it frightening?
No, it's surrender.
surrender is a big. Actually, we should talk about surrendering at some point. But
so I've done over the years of my life. I've been into meditation. I've been into yoga. I've been into breath work. Do you know what I mean? I've wanted to understand. Like when I was in a deep depression, I knew that I could control. Yeah. So, but you say control. The ultimate control is to let go and surrender. Yeah. So I've always been quite into that. So I was like, okay, I've got to kind of go with. I'm either going to get taken. The worst that's going to happen is I'm not going to. Well, might not come back, or I might come back a bit different because I'm being taken in by a guardian. But I was like, I'm willing to go with this. So
you've just brought up something that reminds me. It made me laugh at the time, actually. But when I was on a retreat in Tanzania, and I did my first medicine journey, my friend who was with me, she didn't do one, and I mean, I've got to admit, and we'll talk about this, but I was really quite scared because I don't even like getting drunk because I really don't. In fact, I don't know how to get drunk to lose. You know, when people say they don't know what they're doing, yeah. I have no idea how to get there because I actually get more sober as I drink more. I become more like, right, let's just keep all this in. And she turned around and she said, I really don't want to do it. And I said, why? She said, well, if I come back a different person. And it really genuinely had not even dawned on me that remotely that might happen because I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. But I think you've touched on a really big word, and perhaps we talk about that now because I think it's pertinent, about surrender. Yeah. Because even with Cacao, it's about surrender, isn't it? Not, what's going to happen next, how that's going to,
it's not navigating. So our minds are really busy and they want to, we call it the ego mind, don't we? It says, oh, this is what we should be thinking, or this is what we should be doing. Don't allow, just switch on.
You say just is a very big word. As somebody who, for those who don't know, my background is very corporate. So I'm 58 now, my spiritual journey started just in my late 40s. And it started with like crystals and Reiki and things, which I got fully obsessed with. But surrendering, truthfully, I don't feel I've managed to attain until this last 6 months. And when I left my last position in beginning of January, which was quite a dark time to me, well, because you've been with me on that journey, I had to learn how to surrender. And I know that sounds really odd for people, but when you're used, which all of us live this busy life, don't we? We live this life as, achievements, whether that's, a good job, a nice house, a partner, children, 2.2 cars, nice holidays, live in all of this space, that we're constantly driving for things, but we don't know how to be still. And we really don't know how to not just be still, but to trust and surrender to being still. And I feel with part of my journey, that's how plant medicine has helped me, because I've had to learn to just be with myself in stillness and let all of those thoughts, emotions and things come to me. Mm-hmm. Would you say it's the same experience for you?
Yeah.
Although I think you're a lot better than me than surrendering.
I've had a lot of... So my first journeys with mushrooms, I was really faced with myself. So it was all that negative chatter, that self-sabotage, that really unkind things that you said. I was fully faced with all of that. The paranoia that people are talking about you, that everybody, even my partner, like, oh, you're not being nice to me. And he's like, what have you been talking about? But this was what was going on in my head. It was all, do you know what I mean? It was my real putting myself down and not allowing myself to be. So, and that's where the integration bit comes in, and it's like, well, is that real? Or what are we working on here? Are we working on self-love? Are we working on, because all of the things they all add up. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, so you're sitting with yourself. It's not very nice sitting with yourself because you're not very nice to yourself. So I can continue to not be very nice to myself, or I can make myself be a nice place to live in.
Do you feel it's a bit like a mirror?
It's a massive mirror, yeah.
It's a bit like going into an environment where, and only, I think it's fair to say, isn't it, you only gets revealed what you're ready to receive.
Yeah, it only gets revealed what you're ready to receive. Also, the mushrooms are really cheeky. I will say that. Mushrooms are cheeky. They can tell you things of what can feel like real, but then it can just put a projection of maybe how things could be in the future. But that's not actually, like, ultimately we have we make decisions in our life, so it can show you something, and that not be the true. That's not what's actually happening. Do you know what I mean? But it gives you the option. Do you want to feel like that or not?
So that's really interesting, and I feel for those people who not experienced or who are curious about exploring a medicine journey, which is the terminology that people might use, is what good? What is the benefit of doing it?
Okay,
because
for the bigger mushroom journeys.
Yeah, because I think I want to cut through sort of some of the unknownness of it and be really clear for people, so that if they are considering it or they've heard about it and are frightened about it, so that we can support them to allow them to make informed decisions. Because in truth, when I came across them, I sort of heard it, and I have this habit that I hear something, and if I'm interested, I tend to follow it. So I genuinely didn't. I had no idea what it was. I am quite naive in things like that. So I'm quite proud of myself now that I can talk about it. But explain to people what a mushroom journey is and what the benefits are of having them, and how can it help them develop. That's quite a big question.
That is, yeah. So no mushroom journeys are the same. Like you said, you only, it might not even be shown, but things are only revealed what are meant to be. So, and that will depend on the main key factors of like sitting in a ceremony is like safe space. Safe space, and to make sure that you feel as comfortable as possible, really, because if you don't feel safe and secure and comfortable, you are unable to process what you need to process.
But I think that's really important to do, actually, because the times that I have done it, I think somebody's holding space for me. And when we talk about holding space, what that means is somebody who's trained, sometimes certificated, experienced, so that they can open the space for you, allow you to go on your journey in a safe way, and be there for you in a considered way, whether that's simple things like going to the toilet, because you can get up and walk and go to the toilet, but you just might, where is the toilet, or whatever it is, or a drink, or there might be something that they're a bit frightened of or happy about or want to share. So that is holding space, isn't it?
It's to be there for all of your needs during that time. And to, like, however you're going to be, like, whatever's in the room stays in the room. And I really pride myself on that. It's a safe container for you to fully be and to process whatever you need to process.
Yeah, I have actually, I don't know whether I've ever told you this, but I have had the privilege of supporting somebody who was holding space, because there was two ladies, and then the lady was holding the space, it was Cindy actually, and I was there to help facilitate her. And I found it a real privilege, because you are vulnerable, you are opening yourself to being vulnerable. And as you say, whatever goes on in that space stays in the space. But it was a privilege to witness it, because well, it just was. But in terms of how it can help you,
Same here.
why would somebody explore doing one?
What mushrooms do is, so we have our neural pathways. We only use around, I think it's like 10% of our actual brains. It's actually in work. When we take a macrodose of mushrooms, that opens all of our receptors.
Explain what macrodosing is.
So you can microdose, which is like 0.05 up to, really, you can't feel anything. It's something that works in the background. A macrodose is a higher dose of mushrooms where hallucinations, or you'll be able to see things differently. But what happens, was our brain, we're only 10%. When we macrodose, it basically opens all of our neural receptors. This is why we see things. It opens us up to full potential. So we're able to, like the hallucinations, say they're hallucinations, but all those things may or not be there. We just can't see them in this reality.
I've experienced them. But I think something we should share is that not to be frightened by it, because it starts and it finishes.
Yeah, there's always an end.
Yeah.
And
it can be quite joyful, because I know when we've done one,
yeah,
you know, we were just giggling the whole flipping time. It was like, it was a giggle. Healing doesn't have to be harsh, does it?
No, it doesn't have to be a kick in the teeth. Yeah, like I say, they're cheeky. They can be cheeky, and there can be so many different elements as well. It's not a linear line of how you're going to journey. There's obviously peaks, and there's
it's a bit like a wave, isn't it? That's how I describe it.
Yeah.
You go in,
yeah,
and then
start going out.
You go up. It's like going to a dream. I feel it's like a dream state.
Yeah.
And then you come back out of it, and then you go back in again.
Yeah.
And then you come back out of it, and you keep going in and out of it. It's not one constant level all the time.
No.
And it can take twists and turns, can't it? Depending on
it depends on the energy. It depends on the sound, or like what's happening. So yeah, in regards to the benefits. So from a place of insecurity, like my personal experience, from a place of insecurity, a lot of I did love myself. I learned to love myself after I stopped drinking, but then I feel like, I don't want to use the word like level up, but it's really kind of clearing out all the junk.
It's quite grounding.
Yeah, clearing out all the junk. Mushrooms really supported me. I like the Paul Stamets analogy of we have a computer, and every so often it needs a hardware clear, doesn't it? Because otherwise it gets clogged up.
I like that.
So the mushrooms actually do that to our brains.
Yeah.
It actually gives us a good clear out, and then we're able to, because afterwards after you've processed, you feel really refreshed, because it's like you've had
It's interesting, isn't it? Because as I was just describing that, and I hadn't thought about this before, but I've been talking a lot with people that I'm training at work, in terms of, so many of us have a rucksack that's full of stuff that we collect, and the rucksack gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and you know, it might be picking up somebody else's emotions, it might be your own ones that you've not dealt with, and your rucksack just gets heavier and heavier, so heavy that actually, visually, what came to mind when you were speaking then is that it's a bit like tipping your rucksack upside down and getting rid of all the ones that have been buried for a bit of a time, to make room, so that you can process other things, doesn't it?
That's exactly how it is.
Yeah. So I genuinely haven't thought about it that way until you were just talking, but that feels and makes sense that you're making room, because let's face it, we all carry around so much baggage that, you know, it's formed from a childhood, isn't it? Yeah, everything. Well, it's experiences a childhood.
It's even passed on before that. So we hold all our mother's baggage, and we also hold all of our grandparents' baggage as well. Yeah. So that's a whole lot of baggage. It's like the cup analogy, isn't it? Where the cup just overflows and it gets to a certain point and it's just too full.
I do always wonder where, in fact, my mum and me had a conversation when I first started. I did some therapy years ago, and it was there was a fantastic book called Robin Norwood, Women Who Love Too Much, and it was my first experience of understanding that you can change your life for the better if you make a conscious choice to do so. Mm-hmm. And he talks very much around having like a record player, and the stylus is stuck in a groove, and you know the songs to that groove and it stays there, but you can pick it up and stick it on another song. And at the time, I remember talking to my mum and I was asking some questions about my childhood, and she turned around to me and she said, why are you dragging this up, Tina? Because I think that's a generational thing. You know, she's in her 80s now, and they don't talk about what was in the past. And I said, because I don't want the life that you had. And at the time, I didn't realise what I'd said, but that started to, I don't want that life. I want a different life. And I feel that the things we're talking about is that conscious choice. And you definitely made that conscious choice, didn't you? It's like, I've got this life, but I don't want it. I want this life.
Yeah. I didn't want the drinking, going down to the pub every night, not liking myself, life, not nice to anybody else because I didn't like myself. Do you know, I really genuinely don't know that person because you ooze love, and you know, you give the best hugs, you do, but I was crawled it inside myself at those points. But I made that conscious decision, had kids, so I wanted to be a good mom. I've never feared change.
No,
so I was
quite one of the bravest people I know, actually.
Yeah, I was quite up for. I was not afraid to be a different person. I've changed, like my fundamentals are actually here, but I've not stuck to a change as I live. And I think that's really empowering for people to say, you know, we all have shit in our lives. We do. Still got shit in my life.
because life keeps throwing at you. But what I do feel, and I was talking to a friend earlier about this, is that we talk about healing, don't we? In the spiritual world, it's used a bit too much in my view. But really, it's not like somebody comes along with a magic wand, do they? And sort of say, right, you're healed, ding, and then you can go off. Because life throws us things all the time. But I feel, I'm interested to hear what you feel about it, is that the healing journey is more about shining the light on the things that you don't like about yourself or don't like that's happened to you, and giving love to it, and learning how to embrace them rather than stick them in the cupboard.
So my thing is, and this is what I feel mushrooms and cacao provides, is it supports you in being the best version of yourself. And being the best version of yourself is, like you say, things are always going to be thrown at us. Doesn't matter how healed you are. There's never an end point of healing.
No, there isn't.
Ever.
Do you know what? I hate it. That's the biggest gutting moment that I found out, was like, because you do all the work, don't you? Like, I did a load of shadow work last year, and I was like, yep, that's it. I've done all my journaling. I've done my shadow work. I've sorted myself out now. Tick, done. And then I rapidly learned, no, that's not the case, because it's all a spiral, and you just revisit it in a different plane or a different level. But what you do is you get more balanced, don't you?
It's easier to deal with things. So like, before, if something would happen to me, I would be stuck in I'd probably be down. Like, for instance, Christmas for me was always a bad thing, but I'd had a lot of past trauma associated with Christmas, but then it wouldn't just be Christmas, it'd carry on to New Year. Do you know what I mean? I'd be stuck in a hole. Now, I don't have a bad Christmas anymore, or even if it's like a bad situation, they don't take very long to get over. So if something's really bad's happened, I wouldn't be stuck in bed for a week. I'd be, okay, I might have a cry for a day, or I might do what I need to do for the day and just kind of clear my diary and go, right, I need a day for myself. but then I'm able to get back on the train again, or back on the treadmill, or back on the horse.
So would you say that plant medicine has changed your life?
Oh yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Most definitely. The mushrooms have definitely changed my life. Like I said, really showed me that connection to nature and to Mother Earth, the connection to myself and other beings, because we're all connected.
I was going to say, do you know, that's a big thing, that topic, and probably another podcast in this one, but how we're all connected.
Yeah.
Because I have a firm belief, and I used to talk about this a lot in leadership. Well, I still talk about it now, but I didn't really understand the connotations of it, that as leaders, we have a responsibility to be the best version of ourselves, because we have a ripple effect. And I used to talk about it in terms of, you know, if you lead well and you manage well, there's been in the past, I haven't. There's been times where I've seriously, whilst been trying to do my best, the trying and what actually is happening were, you know, very, very different. But the place that I'm at now is that if I can be the best version of myself and support the people who are around me to be the best version of themselves, then that means that filters to them, to the family, which then their own interactions. And whilst that was a surface level, energetically, we are all tied together, aren't we? So the more baggage that we clear, and you were talking about ancestral healing and things, the better it is for everybody.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Our vibration, our energy is everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but we are, as a collective, as one. I do believe that that's going to be the point of, like, make or break for the earth, really, because we are all a piece to the puzzle. Our own authenticity, our own individuality is that piece of the puzzle. So we don't need to try and be anybody else or anything that we're not, because our soul, our individuality, our persona is what makes that piece of the puzzle.
And we only have a responsibility to save ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not really, do not start to try saving. It's a female thing, isn't it? About saving people. But genuinely, one of the biggest life lessons I've learned is it's not our responsibility to save anybody else.
I'm here to hold space for you, but everybody else is there. You're on your own journey. I can support you through a journey, but I can't help you. Yeah.
And neither should you.
No.
Because actually, you know, somebody pointed out to me, which I've been talking to a few people around, that if you try and do something for somebody else, it's actually pretty unkind, because you're not allowing them to learn that lesson. And we're all here to experience different scenarios and different things.
Yeah.
And life will keep chucking the same thing at us if we don't learn to handle it differently, won't it?
Yeah, I'm always good for 2 lessons. I don't like the third. Never go for the third. I never have a third.
You don't have a third?
No, I learn after the second one, because it hits me too hard.
I think I'm better at it now. I think in the past I probably got to 5 or 6 times. Particular relationships. In fact, I might have gone a bit further than that. But now I you know, through being around people such as yourselves, you've been a great teacher to me, and you've taught me a lot of things. A, you've taught me about plant medicines, which I thank you for. B, you've taught me, or been part of my journey, very much to surrender. That, you know, that's a big one that you and I still have to do the final surrender.
Yeah.
We will be doing that. And also to trust. I think that's the other thing, isn't it? About trust what comes to you when it's meant to come to you. B, trust yourself, which is how many of us don't trust ourselves. You know, that's something else I like to really learn. And being still.
Yeah, I want to say, and trust the bigger, the higher vision. So trust in the process.
Well, we have to, don't we? Because when we did, you know, strangely do this podcast before, but we only talked about cacao, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
And then the video stopped, and at the time we were both gutted, weren't we? Because it was like, wow, we had a fun time, we talked about all this, and then it's like, oh my god, video didn't work. And then I had to really sit back and I thought, you know what, perhaps it's because we're meant to do this again because we didn't go far enough.
Maybe, yeah.
And so if you were to say with plant medicines, I know that they've fundamentally changed your life, but what advice would you give to people who want to, from anything, who somebody might never have had cacao to somebody who might want to do medicine journey? Is there any advice that you would give?
Just come try. Like, cacao's a great in. I say cacao. It's a great start, really. It's
a safe start.
It's a safe start. You can come to a cacao ceremony and you might think, oh my goodness, don't like this, or you might absolutely love it. And it depends on where you are on your own journey with what you want to uncover. If you are willing to dive into yourself, they're the places to go. From my personal experience,
I'd agree with you.
Yeah.
I think it's particularly, cacao is very gentle. That's the word I would use. It's very gentle. You're held in, and again, if anybody is in the corporate world who's listened to this, it is a good starting point, because particularly for females in the corporate world, you're very much in masculine mode. Mm-hmm. You're very much in doing, achieving, pushing. It's like you're off on this thing, and it's really hard to embrace the feminine side of you, because it's not encouraged in the workplace. You shouldn't be emotional in the workplace. You shouldn't show your true feelings. You shouldn't be this. You shouldn't be that. You've got to be like them men, and you've got to be pushing forwards. Whereas there is such a wonderful feminine energy around cacao that it sort of brings you home to yourself.
Yeah. And I don't think it's just for the women. I think men need this too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But,
so it's a real softening. It's a real softening. It's a softening of the heart. And it's the same. If they are willing to tune in, they have the answers.
And there's a bit of a tip for the men here, because women want you to be more emotional. They want you to be in touch with your feminine side, don't they? Yeah. Because that's where balance happens. We've all got feminine and masculine inside of us.
We have, yeah.
And when we're in true balance, that is the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's for men and women.
I think for me as well, with the cacao, it just really gives you that. So I hold 2 ceremonies a month. I do it on a new moon and a full moon, on Tuesdays or Fridays. But it really gives you that time to be with yourself. When do you ask yourself, when do you give yourself 2 hours just to be with you?
Well, people don't, do they?
No.
Because, let's face it, life gets in the way. Yeah. But I would strongly encourage people to try it. Even if you did it once a month, as a treat, that could be that experience just for you, to be held in a safe space, to be nurtured and loved, and to find your own space. Yeah. I think it opens a doorway, doesn't it, for you?
Yeah, it does.
And equally with mushroom journeys or medicine journeys, they are very transformative, aren't they?
Yeah,
they are. So thank you very much for your time, Ashley. If people want to find you, where do they find you?
You can find me on my website, which is www.adala.uk. Instagram, I'm Adala_UK.
Well done for that, because you asked me mine, I can't remember.
And I'm on Facebook, which is Adala.uk1.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully today we've just given people a little bit of a taster around plant medicine and what it can do for you, and how it can, these conversations, I want them to be so that people can listen and see if anything resonates with them. Yeah. And, if it helps one person to find their way and to end up being the better version of themselves, then I think that's a good job done.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time, Ash.
Thanks, Ian.
And we'll see you on the next one.